First and foremost, why does my tier list matter? It doesn't really in the grand scheme of things. It's a fucking tier list. Get that out of the way. It's a subjective opinionated tier list of my experiences with these encounters and these specific phases, which we're gonna rank. My experience is that I have done all of these fights in their respective expansions. A lot of them on patch, with the exception of like UCOB and UCOB, and then I did DSR a little later because this is where my mom passed away, and then my top prog was dog shit, and I took a break from the game and came back and beat it later. Baby, we're not playing ball right now. No. I know you want to play. We'll go after I do this, okay? Go after I do this. I know. We played already this. It's never enough, Papa. But with that out of the way, let's do the criteria, just like we did yesterday. Criteria. Handwriting look a little better today. He says, immediately fucking it up. Criteria. 1. First and foremost, I am a progression rater. The prog experience really matters to me in terms of like how fun the fight was to learn and get consistent at. Seeing things for the first time, the wow factor, you know, like, oh my god, that's so fucking cool. So prog, first and foremost. Feeling of progressing the fight. How rewarding it felt, etc. So all these things are under the umbrella of progression. 2 actually today is more important than reclears. Aura, baby! All caps. Aura. How fucking cool the fight is. How bombastic. How fucking rad the OST is. How did it make me feel seeing the final phase or like the big premiere mechanic of the fight. Like, did it give me a boner? You know, that kind of shit. Or a big exclamation points, very important. And then 3, not something I do as much for ultimates as I do for other stuff because I don't really give a shit about ultimate weapons. The re-clears. How fun is it? How fun is it to go back and re-clear or even like reprog? I guess I do reprog like for other people. Like I go back and help other people. So clear. Flash reprog. This is like how frustrating it is to go back in, or like how smooth it feels to go back in and relearn, even on alt rolls or like helping somebody else prog. But these are my criteria. We're once again, we're gonna do it a little differently than we did yesterday. We're not gonna instantly go for like the bottom and the top. We're gonna go in order. And how I feel about each of these, how I felt about each of these individual phases. First and foremost being prog, then like how aura it was, and then like, you know, reclear, reprog stuff. Which is going to leave the legacy ultimates in a little bit of a disadvantage as time goes on. Obviously, legacy ultimates get outscaled, and like some of the difficulty gets dissuaded by, you know, gearing and like just the way that syncing works. And hopefully that gets addressed in Evercold. With the certain jobs being just like, you don't bring certain jobs to like UCOB and UWU because they're really bad. you just don't bring them because they're really fucking awful. Like Reaper or Viper, stuff like that. You just don't bring them to Legacy Ultimates because the jobs basically don't function, right? So hopefully with all jobs being advertised as getting their core rotation by level 50, hopefully that means by level 70 where the Legacy Ultimate starts, all jobs will feel much better in Ultimate. But that is going to hurt Ultimates like in current day that a lot of you probably didn't experience UCOB UU like when they were on content, where like a lot of the stuff you don't even see anymore, which we'll get to when we get to certain phases. But I think that in terms of first phases, I think Twintania is probably top 3. Probably the third, yeah, probably bronze medal. Honestly, yeah. I think Twintania is probably the bronze medalist in terms of first phases. Reason being is that everybody's involved, right? Nobody like has any responsibilities shirked. And they just get to AFK. Like you get to designate a range player. It could be a healer, it could be a range physical, it could be a caster. Typically not a black mage. But somebody in the first phase has to be in charge of baiting Liquid Hells, right? And then somebody has to be their backup in case they get picked for a hatch, right? So there has to be some sort of flexibility in terms of like you're watching, if you're the backup, you're watching the player that you're backing up for, because they get picked for a hatch and you need to bait their Liquid Hells for them. You got to flex in for that. And then if you get picked for a hatch, if you're a melee, you got to make sure you know where the nearest Neuralink is to go jump into it. And then tanks have a really important responsibility in like understanding when the pushes are happening. When you hear the necklace snap and a Neuralink drops, you got to move Twintania pretty precisely to the next position. I know there's markers for them now, but it's just a really fun phase. There's high damage with the Liquid Hells hitting and the hatches and the stacks and the plummets and the death sentences. Like the boss doesn't fuck around. And for being the first Ultimate, we had never seen something like this before. It was the hardest content ever at the time, right? And there have been Ultimates that have stepped since, like, surpassed it in terms of difficulty, obviously. But this being the first foray, they knocked it out of the park. I think Twintania is the third best first phase out of all the Ultimates, and I'm gonna put it in B tier. Nail. I fucking love this phase. I don't really like where PF landed with the I prefer reading the dive bombs instead of just going to set positions for the dive bombs, because there can be issues with going to very set positions for certain dive bomb patterns. But it's fine, it works. But you got dive bombs, you have dynamo chariots, you have debuff stuff where you have to do when it's all uptime. You have Bahamut's Claw. You have her doing her quote combos. And it's all uptime. She doesn't ever like go untargetable except for the jump, right? Where she jumps and where she leaps into the air during dive bombs and then she lands on somebody. Tight DPS check for the time. This phase is incredible. I would say it is solidly an A tier fight. This may move up or down depending on where everything else lands, but like Nail is incredible. Baby, I'm gonna kick you out. I'm kicking you out until we're done. Come on, let's go. Oh. Find it later. Kick her out until I'm done with this thing, and then we'll go play ball. This is my nightmare. Anyway. Bahamut! The introduction of trios. And I know nowadays this phase, I mean, even in like Stormblood, this phase ended up being a joke, DPS wise. But honestly, on content, this shit was omega challenging. And there is some jank, like some old programming netcode jank that is like holdover from the coils and shit in here. But fuck me, it's so cool, man. it's so cool. Do I think it is better than Nail? No. Do I think it is better than Twintania? Yeah. Unfortunately, nowadays, you don't interact with Grand Octet. Grand Octet gets tank LB'd now, which I think actually, Prog is the most important thing in Aura. This is yeah. I think this is that's fair. Quintanian Nail. This is just the nail phase on steroids. Honestly, doing this as my first experience with this was on Bard. And doing the far hatch baits during this phase on Bard, while doing the nail quotes and doing like equal damage to both bosses, because you have to kill them with you have to kill them within like a couple of GCDs of each other or you die. This shit is incredible. And then doing it on tank later on, fuck me running. This phase on tank is second, I think, only to Brothers, Twin Dragons in DSR, and how it made me feel the first time through. I was like white knuckling the fucking busters and the swaps. It was like, oh god, ooh, mwah. Chef's kiss. This phase is S tier for me. I fucking loved it. It's so good. Golden. In terms of final phases, it is carried hard by Aura. There is not a lot here to Prog. He has if you count tank busters, he has 2 mechanics. Well, I guess Mortifall. Well, Mortifall is like the finisher on the tank buster, right? So it's basically busters, stack, and exaflares, right? It's that is all he does. But the transition with Phoenix reviving you and Golden coming onto the platform and the music kicking in, the aura in this phase is unparalleled, but everything else was really easy. Like, almost disappointingly so, but it was still... They call it the Golden Shakies for a reason, because if you, like, on content the first time here, I was nervous as fuck. I wasn't the first person in my group to die to an Exaflare, which is, you know, point of pride. But I think that it is hurt by the fact that even on content, the Phoenix buff here, like, you know, makes it so that nobody can die, but the check is like was never really that scary. You may lose like, you know, half your group to the Mortifaz at the end as like the boss is dying. But it's mostly just hurt by the fact that there's like nothing here to chew on. It's probably it's the weakest mechanically of all the final phases. I think it's gonna be, honestly, either high C or low B is where it's gonna end up. Yeah. Yep. I think so. Man. This one is where like a lot of people are gonna have like a negative opinion on it, but I honestly I'm going to start at the end instead of the beginning for Uwu. I think Ultima is great. I think Ultima is an incredible phase. And thank God, because it's the majority of the fight nowadays. But Predation, Suppression, Primal Roulette, it's all fucking... Annihilation is so fucking rewarding to do on a melee and tank. And it's even like the healers have responsibility with the Burning Winds or whatever, right? This phase is really, really good. And I like the fact that you can decide how fast you want the phase to go in terms of like how quickly, how easy you want to make the Etheric Booms soaks. You can increase the amount of gauge he gets and you just make them easier to heal or whatever. Or you can make them hit harder and give him less gauge to give yourself more time. Also, the Enrage sequence is really cool, where it starts kidnapping people and putting them into fucking baby jail. Just a really, really good phase. I know a lot of people hate on this fight, but I never hate on this phase. This phase is really good. That being said, it being legacy content now, the primal phases also suffer. They also suffer from the fact that they are they took a swing again. Phoenix used to take a lot of big swings in Stormblood and stuff. Heaven's Ward and Stormblood, they took a lot of big swings. The woke mechanic is you're either gonna love it or you hate it. I kind of hate it, but at the same time, it was interesting to like wake up and hear like about the progress. Like, oh my god, we were doing it all wrong. You know, that was like and if you were there at the time watching it or playing, it was pretty hype. But it's one of those things that like once you know the secret, it's just the way to do it. That being said, I will say that frogging it the first time was fun. Frogging through the primals was pretty fun. It was pretty quick. Even back then, there wasn't a lot to them because the phases are like relatively short. Even shorter now, where like you skip Ifrit dashes, right? you just like straight up skip Ifrit dashes, which is like a little disappointing because like nobody has to know how to do the dashes anymore. And there's also the choice to do early woke or late wake Garuda, which is pretty cool. But I think in terms of how much I enjoy the phases, it's gonna go. Ooh, nothing I feel like is F tier here, but I do feel like Ifrit is D. And then Garuda and Titan are C. For me, I think this is where the primals land. And this is hard carried. Magitech bits. Well, we can go over the phases individually, right? I'm kind of skipping over them. Garuda's like bubble where you're cleansing debuff stacks to give her the stacks of like her awakening. Pretty cool. The feather scream's pretty easy to dodge. The spiny plume and all the other plumes, making the bubbles and whatever is neat. I'm talking myself into a D for she's C. Like cool, but not like groundbreaking. I love Ifrit aesthetically, but the fact that you skip his nails now, and even when you had to do the nails or not, I don't know if you skip nails, but you skip dashes. But the fact that you don't have to care about what order you kill the nails anymore, and the melees just kind of get to ignore everything and just fucking smack the boss. And like his only real mechanic is the dashes, and like tank buster breaths, as well as the Searing Winds, right? But it's like, what the fuck ever. It's like it's a big nothing phase. Honestly, it's like almost F tier. Titan's great. I love the limited space. I've always liked Titan though. Titan's like one of my favorite early primals. Landslide, like the double landslides and the way of the lands and the jails. Even if the jails can be a little janky, I think the jail, like making the jail trail to the boss to activate the awakening status on Titan, pretty cool. Neat little thing you have to do. Even before AM, it was extremely doable. In VC, you would just say, front, middle, back. That's how I did it initially, as you just called, and I was usually in the middle or the back because I played Bard, obviously. But I think Titan's really cool. I like it a lot. A lot of ways to maximize uptime as a melee as well, by like knowing how to dodge and understanding like snapshots, spacing, and stuff like that. Very, very, very good. Yeah. Primals, pretty alright. Nothing like absolutely trash. I do, however, feel that Magitech bits and La Habrea are like borderline F tier. I think they are actually F tier. Honestly. This is literally just aura. Only aura. There's no real mechanic here. You just hit a bunch of LBs in succession, and you don't even have to think about the tank LB. You just mash it. you just mash tank LB. As soon as you're able to hit it, it just goes off. You don't have to time it like the caster LB or anything. But also half your group doesn't even get to participate. They're just like basically sitting there AFK. Not very cool. visually impressive and neat the first time, but afterwards it's like you're just sitting here waiting for it to be over to get to the actual cool phase, you know? Yeah, not very good. I don't really like it. Now, on to my favorite ultimate. This is still my favorite ultimate of all time. I mean, obviously my top boss from Savage makes it in here, but he's not even the best. Honestly, Living Liquid is undefeated in terms of first phase encounters. Still is the best first phase encounter of any ultimate. And the reason I feel that way is that every job gets to have a moment where they are the hero. DPS get to have an important job in grabbing their doll, controlling their doll's push, and feeding the dolls to the boss. Before the advent of like pulling the boss through the dolls, like DPS would like pull their doll to the boss at the right time. You would still move the boss's middle. But yeah, it was and then healers obviously have the throttle, which I know a lot of healers are like, I fucking hate having to cast 3 GCDs on my party members without being able to hit the boss. It's like, dude, you're literally just saving the run. And as I felt so fucking smart when I was initially progging this blind, I didn't go in here on Dancer. I went in on Bard. Bard was still my preferred job at this point. At the beginning, at the early parts of Shadowbringers, I preferred Bard over Dancer. Going Bard for this fight, I felt like such a fucking genius. I felt like such a genius. Being able to Warden's Pain one of the, either myself or another DPS, to take one off the healer's plate always felt really fucking good. Every pull. PTSD, you won. Grow up. You did great. And you have the weapon to show for it, and the memories of doing it and overcoming all of that. But yeah, I think Living Liquid is still the reigning champion of first phase encounters. It's not super close. There is a couple of ones that are like kind of close. Like I like Twin, but not nearly as much as I like Living Liquid. But I think Living Liquid is the best. Best first phase. BJCC! Progging this phase was a trip. The first time through, learning how and when to move, what was safe, what was unsafe, when the passes were happening, learning the cadence, getting the passes down, and being 2 targets on Bard was fucking peak, because I got so many goddamn procs, being able to keep my dots up on both bosses. And then redoing this on tank later on in the expansion, learning how to position and face not only Brute Justice but Cruise Chaser. Very fun to prog and reprog. It does, once you understand the steps and the cadence and the phase itself, it does start to feel like it's weighted towards away from the tanks. Like the tanks don't really have a lot to do in this phase. The CC tank obviously has a more interesting job with the mind bait and the facing of the shield towards the party and stuff like that, and not getting hit by Cruise Chaser's kick. But this phase, honestly, this phase kind of smacks. I like it a lot. The music's a banger. Even the opening with like the 1 HP mechanic, you have to like pre-shield or people come out of the dot, doing the chakram baits, baiting the mines, making sure you're doing the water and lightning passes, and then obviously the alpha, beta, delta, gamma debuffs for Justice, whatever the fuck it was called. What the hell's the final? I forget. Final verdict. I think this phase is really good. Is it A tier? No, but I think it is a top. That's probably where I put BJCC. Alexander. Honestly, this is the prog simultaneously extremely easy and aura filled, but like kind of boring. Because this is basically just learn wormhole. Because Inception doesn't have a lot of moving parts once you understand how it works. Like, we obviously cleared with not doing the standard strat. We cleared with Dick strat because we were, haha, very funny, very mature. There's a little bit of flexibility there to doing that, but there's not a lot here to like really chew on. Like, even after Inception, it's just wormhole and then into Mega Holies, into the J-Wave stuff. The J-Wave burn is cool and thematic, and I like it's just like a DPS race to get to Perfect Alexander. But I honestly think that this tier, or this phase, I feel like it's weaker than Bahamut. I feel like it's weaker than Bahamut. I think it's fine, but I think the trios in Bahamut like are overall more interesting, and they're all downtime just like Alexander's are, right? I feel like the Bahamut trios are more interesting than the two Alexander trios. There's only 2 of them where there are much more in Bahamut. I know there's some that are kind of throwaway, like Quick March and Blackfire, kind of throwaway trios, but they're still like downtime trios, and there's more of them to do. This might get shuffled around a little bit, but I feel like Alexander's B tier. Perfect Alexander. What is there to say about Perfect Alexander that hasn't already been said by other people? This phase has the most incredible, like, visual bombastic aura cutscene leading into it. Alexander grows legs and stands up, and hits you with the fucking I'm gonna fuck you up, and then the music kicks in. This phase is everything that I want out of a final phase. The only like small gripe is that I wish there was I wish that the essentially I don't know what I would change. It is just cinema. I honestly think it might just be perfect. I'm really having a hard time saying what I would change. Because even the downtime stuff is neat, because you're like reading your clone, doing your stillness in motion, or you're getting mind jacked to do tether stuff, which is cool. The only thing is that it was kind of the Enigma Codex, but that's mostly like a design decision for like Alexander in the Inception phase, which honestly might just fucking honestly might bring it down here, because I think the puzzle of the Enigma Codex is like kind of unintuitive, because if you are unaware, the green puddles during Inception actually will slow the heart down, and it really seemed intuitive to slow the heart down in order to kill it, which is what a lot of people were like, it's like the obvious solution you come to right away. And it wasn't discovered that you wanted to put the heart into the black puddle, all 4 black puddles, until much later, and it was on accident. It happened on accident due to the World First Team TPS discovery, which is why it took so long for the first clear of T to happen, was just because of that decision. Like, we continued doing Inception wrong to like continue learning Wormhole until we like got Wormhole clean, and then we just made a quick adjustment to Inception in order to push into Perfect Alexander. But the Enigma Codex, I think, is like the main thing that I have a problem with T. Other than that, I think T is like almost a perfect ultimate outside of the Enigma Codex shit. Like, if you just remove the Enigma Codex and allow your character just to see your clone in the final phase, I think this is probably the perfect fight. It's, I don't know, it's incredible. I like it. Perfect Alexander, S tier. S tier. Yeah. Unfortunately, the only ultimate in Shadowbringers, due to COVID, the DSR fight got pushed to Pinwalker. Speaking of DSR, this is now probably my third favorite ultimate. I don't know. It's up there. It's up there. It's top 3, top 4. But I have a soft spot for a couple of phases in here. One of which is Vault Knight. Unfortunately, you only have to do this once because it is a door boss, and you guys know how I feel about door bosses. But honestly, the mechanics and it being 2-target, there being interrupts. I think this phase for being the door boss is pretty good. How do I feel about it comparatively to better than Bahamut? Do I feel strongly about that? Not better than Beat. Is it A tier? Yep. Top of B tier. Thordan. This is brought down by the fact that while Sanctity, Strength is fine. I think Strength is an okay trio. I think there being trios in the first phase is a little weird. I don't like the abundance of downtime in Thordan 1. But I like Strength is fine as a mechanic. I think it's okay. It's like quickly reading where you need to go if you get a blue circle or not a blue circle. Body languaging which tower you're going to take as a non-tank, and the tank's having to pick up a tether and run to a specific spot to soak the stack with the team and take the busters appropriately. I think it's all very cool. It is a cool trio. I like Strength more than I like Sanctity. I think Sanctity. Sanctity had the problem that it was extremely hard to progress. It was also the first mechanic of all time in the history of Final Fantasy XIV, the first mechanic to require Surecast Arms. It was the only mechanic that ever required that you use a roll action button, the roll action button Surecast Arms Link, in order to succeed the mechanic. No other mechanic of all time ever required you to use it. So much so that there were people trying to puzzle out if we were doing it incorrectly because no mechanic beforehand had ever asked you have to hit this every time, you know? But I think that Sanctity kind of drags this phase down to a C tier. I think that it is mostly downtime, and the uptime is like, you know, there's not much there. It's just burst, downtime, and then burst for broadswings. Which honestly I think kind of puts it below Titan, because Titan's all uptime. Yeah. Yep. Nidhogg! This is, for me, this is nail but better. I think Wormhole, WYRM hole, is fucking incredible. This is such a cool execution mechanic that leads into the tower mechanic at the end of the phase. The Buster was scary as fuck. Like during Prague, this Buster was so fucking scary. Not only because you had to get it, both tanks couldn't invuln at the same time typically, depending on what cooldowns you were running. So you couldn't just like grab a tether and stand on top of your buddy. One of you had to go grab you each had to go grab a tether. One of you invulned, one of you didn't invuln, but you had to make sure that you were not killing anybody. You had to make sure your position. It was, oh god. Wormhole makes Nidhogg triple S for you. Pretty good. But it becomes pretty routine, and you're kind of praying that you don't get a back arrow. you're like kind of praying. You don't have to like look. You're like praying. You don't have to look away, and you can just like kind of look at the boss the whole time. Which doesn't like it's still an A tier phase for me. It's just there are things that are like there's good friction in the phase, but it's friction nonetheless. And it's pretty frustrating on reprog. Teaching other people this phase and having to go back through Thornton again and get through Sanctity again just for somebody who gets a 1 to not be in a 1 position or something and drop a tower wrong, or somebody to look the wrong way. It is just it's a frustrating fail point after Thornton, you know, a very early fail point for players learning after Thornton. And there wasn't a lot of simming back then either. The sim was like not really a thing. It became one. Like XIV sim started to become more prevalent in this expansion. But when we were progging early on, I don't remember there being a sim for this fight. But that phase holds up. Like it's got fucking sick aura, like with Estinian, like Nidstinian fucking making clones and jumping, and you have to like do elusive or if your arrow's backwards or whatever. Very, 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 very cool. Eyes. Eyes is eyes, man. it's ooh. Eyes and Rewind are honestly the worst parts of the fight. This is where the fight kind of crumbles for me, because the rest of it is really good. But I like Thornton. I like Vault Knights. I love Nidhogg. But every time you get to Eyes and Rewind are like the all right, we gotta go through this again. That being said, Eyes is like fucked up in terms of like how much damage it does, like secretly. Like fucking the healers are working in this phase, and you have to make sure you're on top of your mitt because the tanks are getting hammered and there's a lot of raid damage. And it's a cool idea of like having to kill one eye and then the other eye and the tethers and the dives and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. But on repeat and re-clears, kind of whatever. And the aura is like you're just killing giant eyeballs, man. And if you ever get to see the Enrage is fucking sick. I love the Enrage where Estinian turns into fucking Nidhogg and kills your ass. Really cool if you ever get to see it. But most people probably won't ever see it. Because you either die or clear usually. You don't ever fail the DPS check. It's hard to recover deaths in this phase. So it's typically you either just wipe the damage or whatever, or you clear it. That being said, I think that it is solidly B tier, along with Rewind, because Rewind is literally just what you did in Vault Knights, but you got to do it again with a tank LB, and there's just more damage. Fortunately, saw it a lot in 6.5. Owned, actually. Get owned. I think there's more to do in Eyes than Rewind, which puts Rewind below it, but I think they're both solidly D tier phases. Magic Bits and Labre maybe sitting here alone, we'll see. No, it won't. I can think of another phase is gonna end up. But yeah, I think those are both D tier. But the rest of this fight is incredible. More down. Oh, sorry. Trash guys coming through. Sorry about that. More downtime trios in Dark Thornton. Again, it is burst downtime. With like tank busters in it, like you burst on the opener. He does some autos, and then he goes into what's the first trio? Wrath. He goes into Wrath after the first couple autos and raid wide, and then he does Wrath, comes back, busters into Death, and then he comes back, busters into the Enrage. That being said, I think it is a stronger phase than Thornton 1 because the trios are fucking cooler. The trios are cooler. I think Wrath is really cool, with the 2 Dragoon tethers having to crisscross them, and then you have the jump debuff on one person who has to go to the other side of the room, not hit anybody else. and then everybody else has to deal with either getting you know, a lightning, and everybody's doing a twister off the wall, and then you have to space them all in a safe spot on one of the knights doing a safe dynamo, and you're having to space out the 2 lightning debuffs and then everybody else. I think that Wrath is really cool, and learning how to do Death blind, like we were still blind up to this point when we were progging. Learning how to puzzle out the positionings, and this is before Conga, like Death of the Heavens, before the Conga strat became more prevalent and used throughout Party Finder and stuff. Death of the Heavens was a fucking nightmare tree. It was so hard. We had no idea for fucking like 2 prog days that all one roll could get that it could be all 4 of like one roll getting Doom or not Doom, right? We were getting Final Fantasy really fucking hard. But progging that mechanic was really fun, very challenging. And the DPS check on the ads, even when you got it clean, was like not free. I mean, you still burned an LB on it, but it was like, it wasn't particularly free. But I think that phase is really good. I think that though it does end up in the bottom of B tier, it's probably something like that. Yeah. I like Dark Thornton. It is better than regular Thornton, but it is still just like burst downtime. But the downtime is fun. Both trios are challenging. Both trios are good. Brothers, holy fuck. This is, this phase made me so grateful to be a tank main. This phase made me love being a tank player. This is S tier. And this is a little bit of personal bias, but this phase hits you so often, so hard. You have to be so careful and timely with your mitigation. And there's HP balancing with the Akafaz. It's so fucking good. it's so fun. And everybody's involved. Everybody has to do the dance. Everybody has to do the debuff shit. And the tanks have to like watch both bosses to make sure that they're doing the busters correctly. And it's so intense, and it's fucking like 15 minutes in, dude. It is a incredibly challenging phase that is like 15 plus minutes into the encounter. HP bounce is gonna arguably harder now. Oh yeah. And it happens up to the like the millisecond it hits you, right? Because you can do it like there could be like a last second shift where like the HP slips and then you fucking die to the stacks, even if the tether disappears. But this phase is so good, really good. And it's like, honestly, DSR is my favorite ultimate in terms of storytelling. I think the story that is told through the encounter design and through the story and through the fight itself is the best, because you get to see an actual alternate timeline. Like the minstrel will usually, like, you know, give you a cutscene like what would happen if so and so, but then you get to see it play out. Like what happens if you save fucking Haurchefant? What timeline does that end up looking like if Haurchefant lived? And you see that it is it's not good. It's not good. But yeah, so fucking cool. And in terms of final phases, back-to-back bangers in terms of Nidhogg Hraesvelgr into Dragon King Thornton as a tank, managing your threat, managing your cooldowns for the tower soaks, doing the Exaflare, learning the Exaflare dodges. That being said, I don't think this is S tier. It's close. It's top of A. It's top of A or bottom of S. In terms of, because I was white knuckling through this. It was very, very intense as a tank. But I think as a DPS player, it's a little lacking in terms of like you're just walking in when it's your turn to take an auto and you're just dodging, right? So it's like, it feels like it's a little lacking in that regard. You don't have the same kind of responsibility in terms of like mechanic execution as the tanks do or the healers. So I think in that regard, it kind of hurts it a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I think top of A. Top of A would be DKT. Yeah. Now for my actual controversial opinions that people who love this fight are gonna hate. And that's okay. Because I have a, my experience with this fight is painted by not only my initial prog, but like reprogging this fight, which are two of my three fucking, qualifiers, criteria. I honestly think that, Omega is the second worst first phase, in any ultimate. I think that Omega is D tier. I think that, this is D tier. Unironically. I think Looper is too long. I think Pantocrator's cool. I think Looper goes on for way too long. And it's really easy to lose focus and die. And also, the music is not very good. It's literally 011 but worse. It's just worse 011. Sorry, not sorry. That being said, Omega MNF is incredible. This phase has one of my favorite mechanics of all time, which is Party Synergy. I think this phase is up here with Nidhogg. I think I like Nidhogg more aesthetically than MNF. Like, literally just based on vibes. I would say that I like Nidhogg more as like a second phase. Omega MNF is harder, if that makes sense. But just like off aesthetic and vibes, I like Nidhogg more than MNF. But this phase is harder. Party Synergy, for the longest time, I feel, and it might still be, the hardest mechanic in the game. It's really fucking hard. It's one of those things, like, the more you're exposed to it, the easier it gets to read. But never before here did you have to process, especially if you're doing callouts, but even if you weren't doing callouts and you're just doing it for yourself, you need to process within like a GCD what you have, what your tether partner has, where the eye is, and what MNF are doing. You have to process 4 pieces of information within like 3 seconds and then move. All while keeping that all in your head and orienting yourself to where you're going to need to do after you get safe from MNF's dodges, where you're going afterward. It is so quick, and it is so punishing if you get it wrong. It's just a wipe, right? It's a wipe if you get it wrong. And all 8 players have to get it right and dodge correctly and then move correctly for their tethers and dodge the eye. And then do the final dodges with the knockback while maintaining your tether and soaking the stacks. It is... And it's all downtime, right? It's not even an uptime mechanic. If it was uptime, it'd be fucking even worse, obviously. But it is such a good mechanic. So fast, really well paced. Extremely difficult to parse the information until you get a grip on what you're looking for. Again, it's gotten easier with the conga line. Conga line made this easier, made Death of the Heavens easier. It got a lot easier, right? But initially, we were doing like quick march setup. We were doing like quick march setup for the initial prog. And that was a nightmare. Very hard, very good. I like that phase a lot. That shit ain't harder than Kefka says. I didn't say that, did I? I said it might still be one of, if not the hardest mechanics in the game. I didn't say it was. Maybe. We're not there yet. Why are there lyrics in my fucking lo-fi? Shut up! Stop that. You fucking bitch. I'll turn you off right now. I gotta find another song, Chad. Hold on. This'll work. Okay. Neo Omega, Resident fucking Sleeper. Once you understand the cycle of debuffs and what you're on rails like the transition is cool. It's a shame the transition into Neo Omega is in here because I like the transition from phase 2 into phase 3. It's too loud. No, it's fine. The transition from phase 2 MNF into Neo Omega is really fucking cool and I like it a lot. But the Neo Omega phase itself is really fucking boring and not good. I would say it is C tier around Thornton. It is uptime. I would say it's C tier right below Thornton 1 because you are on rails as soon as you see your first debuff. You know exactly what you're doing for the entire fucking phase. There is no variance other than what you get initially. Once you get put on the like flowchart, you are following the flowchart to the end of the phase. That being said, monitors is cool. Monitors is also like not very hard because there's a sim for it. Like, it's just you just have to respect it, and then with conga line and it's not really a big deal. But the Hello World section of this phase, which is the majority of it, is very boring and not very good. I like blue screen a lot. It is a big dance, tight DPS check that puts pressure on the tanks because they're the farthest away from the stacks. There's flex prio. I think blue screen is solidly top, near the top of PT. Is it better than Bahamut? It's better than Twin. Better than Bahamut? I like it more than Bahamut. PT. PT. Now here's where I'm gonna get into my real controversial opinion. With one design decision, this is my least favorite phase every single Ultimate of all. And I'm gonna tell you why. I think Dynamis is an affront to God. I think that them implementing the Dynamis stacks and the way that the trios have to resolve in regards to the Dynamis stacks is a fucking mistake. That's crazy. I don't think it's crazy at all. I think that this phase, specifically in this debuff, or this buff, is what ended up pushing auto markers into the forefront of Party Finder, and it became the de facto way to do this. It was already kind of a thing with Titan jails. You kind of had auto marker, and like you'd see it sometimes in DSR for Wrath Flames, right? But not every Party Finder used it. A lot of people just use self-marking macros, or just use callouts, right? It wasn't as prevalent. This set the Party Finder world on fire with like how everybody, you have to have this. Like, I think that a mechanic design that if you want to do it in any form or fashion now, outside of you making a group specifically to do this phase without auto markers, you have to use auto markers or you're not going to win. You're just not going to win. It's impossible. You would have to create a group specifically for it to not use it in order to do the fight that way. Or you had to have had a time machine to do it, you know, in the first couple weeks when auto marker wasn't a thing. I think that it is an inherently flawed design that if they were to remove it, the phase would be really good. Or if they weren't going to remove it in order to get into the final phase with your LB buff, make it a visual on the character. If you were to get, I've said this a million times before, if your character were to have over their head a limit break bar, which would be thematic considering you're stacking Dynamis and it's for an LB buff that you're going to get in the final phase. If you had a little bar over your head that had LB 1, 2, and 3 for your stacks, you can easily identify who in your group had 1 stack, 2 stack, or 3 stacks at the time. And if the far glow, I mean, you can keep the near and far Dynamis debuffs the same because that's easy to identify. But keeping track of that on top of keeping track of who has stacks and who has to go where, depending on what stacks they have, very difficult and doable without auto marker. But you have to basically designate somebody, hey, you're the fucking marker bitch. Mark everybody who has X thing. Which I think is really bad design. I think it's dog shit. And that alone, as cool as the trios are, and the trios are cool, The trios are cool, but auto marker alone makes me never want to do this fight. I fucking hate the fact that auto markers are mandatory in order to do this fight. I despise it because it takes human input and human skill out of the equation and puts it in the hands of a fucking robot, and I fucking hate that. I hate that it's automated. I really do. And I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with me on this because like, but the trios are fucking rad, Shoof Laserdingger. They're so fun to do. You're just a hater. I hate fucking auto marker. I hate that shit. As somebody who does callouts and like wants to do things on my skill and my group skill, having to concede that we're just not going to be able to do this fight without auto markers, because it's either going to take insanely long or it's just going to be frustrating. People aren't going to want to do it or deal with it. Dog shit. And it could have been fixed. It could have been fixed in design. It could have been fixed in the designing room. And I think that alone makes this the worst phase in any Ultimate that I've ever done. Now, but once you get past that, now hot take aside, I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with this, but some of you probably saw this coming because I fucking hate this shit. But once you get past that, Alpha Omega is fucking sick. I honestly think that Alpha Omega is cooler than DKT and more stressful than DKT. I was more stressed at Wave Cannon 2 doing tank. Wave Cannon 1 and Wave Cannon 2 mitigation as a tank. I've never been more scared. Except for maybe in Brothers. Except for maybe in Brothers. The fact that if you miss one thing on yourself, you miss your buddy mitt or you miss a targeted mitt on the boss and it's fucking over in phase 6. Crazy. Nothing tops the music drops. Pretty great. Which I honestly, it does put Alpha Omega in the S tier. Over Twin and Nail. I don't like it as much as Brothers. But it is really cool. Yeah. Yep. Look, there's an Omega phase in every there's a top phase in every fucking tier. That's funny. Didn't intend for that to happen. That's really funny. Fru. Oh boy. Current expansion ultimate that some of you have probably done, if not all of you have done. And were there when it was released. But Fatebreaker is dog shit. Fatebreaker is down here with Omega. It's not good. It's not a good phase. Too much downtime. Boring downtime. I don't like the towers and the tank buster at the end. It's not very good. I'm not as big of a hater as some when it comes to Usurper. I think that Usurper could have had a couple changes to make it better. I don't think it's bad, but it's not great. Which I think puts it in C tier. Probably above Titan. It's a lot of downtime, but I think Mirror Mirror is cool. I like Diamond Dust. I like the sliding. I like sliding to and from Shiva to resolve the cleaves, the silence or whatever. I think the downtime stuff is cool. It's neat. It's boring. It's a little Resident Sleeper on repeat, but like progging it was really fun. And like executing it is satisfying. Again, I don't think it's on the level of anything up here. But it's fine. It's not bad. It's not good. It's Ice Veil, the puzzle part of Fru, I think is pretty fucking bad. Is it as bad as Eyes and Rewind? No. Is it as bad as Ifrit? No. Is it as bad as Fatebreaker? Is it worse than Fatebreaker? Keep Up or Die School has many many students. That's true. Just hold W and nobody gets hurt. Man. This is kind of tough, actually. Do I feel like it's better than Fatebreaker? It's shorter. You're hitting something the entire time. But, like, all you're doing is dodging and hitting. I'm gonna leave it like that for now. Oracle of Darkness is really good. it's really good. It's basically all uptime except when you get stunned for Ultimate Relativity, right? It's basically all uptime. Except for like the 3 seconds you're stunned for Ultimate Relativity. I think that this phase is a banger. Ultimate Relativity is fun. Sextuple Apocalypse is, again, one of the scariest things I've ever done. Off tank has an incredibly difficult time. The hardest job in this phase, which is baiting the Buster at the end of Sextuple Apocalypse. With like the flexing, reflexing, and then having to make sure you get out and don't kill anybody and position the boss appropriately so that you can get knocked back without getting thrown into the death wall. Very fucking, very hard, very fun. It's fun every time. This phase is great, which I think puts it in A tier. I'd put it up here with MNF. It's uptime. Is it better than Nidhogg? Yeah. Is it better than DKT? No. Yeah. I feel like that's correct. Roomies! The roommate phase. The only thing that I like, I mean, I like CT's fine. CT's a fine trio for a phase, for like the penultimate phase. I feel like Darklit Dragon Song is boring unless you're a tank. Baiting the Buster on a tank is really fun, but I feel like the mechanic is like not great. Otherwise, the HP balancing is cool, and having to not make sure you don't hit the memory crystal at all to save it for to push into the final phase is neat. But the phase mostly boils down to, did you sim crystallize time? And then even during like early reclears, it became like just stack everybody and like have one tank take the stack solo for the Ockborns after the mechanics, which is a little lame. And the phases, yeah, the phase basically just doesn't have a DPS trick either. Yeah, it's true. Which I think puts Oracle and Usurper. It's good. I don't think it's C tier. I think it's B tier. Probably. It's better than Blue Screen. Is it better than Bahamut Trios? I don't think so. Yep. Yep. Pandora is solidly A tier. Where we'll figure that out in a second, but I think that this is, it's mostly on the tanks, and again, there may be a little bit of tank bias here. This phase is mostly on the tanks and everybody being able to dodge Exo lines, but I'm a tank main. There's gonna be a little bit of bias here. This is the scariest Buster. This, not even mitigation wise, but the fact that you're positioning while you're taking the Buster matters so fucking much in the final phase, and it happens twice, and you have to do both sides of the equation because of invulns. I've never been more scared aiming a Buster. It's fucking, this phase is really cool. The music is banging. I love the fact that everything in this expansion got voice acted. It adds a lot to the encounter. The music's really good. The voice acting, especially at the end when you're pushing the Enrage, and the girls are literally just like, you know, they're cheering it on, and you get the fucking Giga scream if you're on pace to kill it with the LB, and the timing of the scream with the limit break, like crescendoing into the clear. The aura on this phase is like fucking unlimited. Even if you're not a tank, that feeling of pushing and having the voices, like when you're stacked and you're fucking blasting and trying to kill the boss into the limit break, and then the scream, it felt so fucking cool. So cool. Which is why it's so high for me. I would honestly put it right below Ultima. Ultima has more execution stuff. It's better than BJC. We'll reorganize the phases inside the tiers once we're done, but yeah. Yep. I'm happy with that. And now for the most recent one. I have done this fight. I've cleared it 7 times now. My group is no longer doing re-clears, but I'm reprogging it again in the off-tank role instead of the main tank role this time. I'll probably do it again before the end of the expansion as melee or something. We'll see. But this fight is incredible, top to bottom. I don't think there's an actually bad phase in Kefka. Everything's probably gonna be B or higher. Kefka phase 1 is great. Puzzles with uptime that you have to carry over into phase 2. There's only a little bit of downtime for arrows, but that's expected with how Kefka's tower worked. Like there's gonna be some sleepy downtime. But it being paired with the arrow mechanic is really cool. I think this is probably the second best phase 1 of all time. Yeah, I think it's. Is it A? It might be top of B. These two phases are kind of closer. I think it's top of B tier. And you may disagree, that's okay, but this phase, I think, is a monster. To nobody's surprise, I think that Forsaken and God Kefka, even now that it's simmable, is really fucking difficult. The positioning checking, the debuff checking, how tight the timing is and movement, and how precise you need to be, all while doing a 2-minute burst on the first set of towers. This phase fucks. If arrows didn't get changed to be lower, it was doable with what the fuck was the Cardinals in sleepy, sloppy, slimy tethers with the slimy arrows with the freaky arrows. Was pretty consistent. Our group was not failing arrows with freaky arrows set up. We were very, very consistent once we started moving the Cardinal arrow and Cardinal in. But I think God Kefka is an A tier phase. I think God Kefka is A tier. This shit is cool as fuck. I love the way the Forsaken flows. I love the pacing of it. I think it's really, really good. I don't think it's like top of A tier, but it's A tier. It felt so much worse. Yeah, I agree. It was like quirky. That's just like the netcode being dog shit and they just didn't design it well enough. But now that it works properly, it's really good. If only they would do everything that was on the ground and you had to interact with like that and they treated it with that much care, right? Like, like tether pickups and fucking intercepting orbs, etc., etc. If only we had good netcode. If only. But yeah, I think God Kefka's A tier. Above BJCC. I don't think it's as aura impactful as Pandora, Ultimate, or Nail, or anything like this, but it's good. Good. And my Nail and God Kefka may switch places. We'll shuffle this around again when we're done. Chaos and X-Death. Man. Black Hole is really cool. But this phase is Resident Sleeper until you get to Black Hole because of the LB cheese. It's gonna hurt it a little bit because it was discovered so quickly that you could do this. And basically we only got to do like 60% of Bowels of Agony cleanly before we were like most of the way there. We were on win resolutions before the LB thing got noticed and it started getting propagated throughout the community. But the fact that one of the two headliner mechanics for this phase is just solved by Tank LB3 hurt the prog in terms of enjoyment because it's pretty fucking boring, which I think knocks it down to a B tier. I think it is going to be probably above Roommates. It's better than Roommates. I think Chaos and X does. It's really good. It's also just like a big focus check because holy fuck, it is so easy to lose your focus in this phase and then get to limit cut and Black Hole and be like, oh fuck, all right, I'm awake. Just because Bowels is so slow, that you don't have to really interact with the main thrust of the mechanic. You just tank LB the win shit. Still enjoyable, not bad, just okay. The fact that it's all uptime is a boon in its favor. I might do it like this. Yeah. That being said, I think that this is the best phase in Kefka. Also the shortest phase in Kefka. I think Kefka says is S tier. This is the fucking hardest mechanic in the game. This is the hardest mechanic in the game. It becomes infinitely easier once you have one or two people that are. We distributed the responsibility across everybody, like a few people in my group, to make this mechanic digestible. But holy fuck, this mechanic is dense. Full uptime memory game where Neo X Death is doing 3 different raid wides, handing out debuffs, either false or positive. You have to remember whether you're motion or stillness depending on what he had, as well as Chaos doing Inferno and Tsunami, which are also truth or lie in terms of whether it's going to be a donut or a fucking twister. And then you have to do Beyond Death or Allegan Field, all while dodging, spreading, stillness, you know, and then mystery magic's happening on the floor. It is such an incredibly dense mechanic that is full uptime with an incredibly tight DPS check until Relics came out, which is a little sad, which is, again, I think it's a knock against 0.5 ultimate releases. I think 0.5 ultimates are fucking dog shit, but that's just my onion. If we got 3 ultimates per expansion, I'd be more for it, but if we're only going to get 2 ultimates, I'd prefer them to be on 0.1 or 0.1 and 0.3. Personal preference. But yeah, I think that Kefka says is the hardest mechanic in the game. By a I don't think it's by a very big margin, but it's definitely the hardest mechanic in the game. It's really, really good. Now, hot take. I think Kefka Reimagined is lame. Sorry. And it's not only because I struggle with the Exaflares for some fucking reason in this phase. It's really irrelevant. I think that the mechanics in there are not very enjoyable. Honestly, this feels not on the level of Golden Bahamut, but it feels like a victory lap on the level of slightly above Golden Bahamut with like how easy everything is in there if you're not a healer. They don't do repeats. They do repeats. You do maddening twice. What are you talking about? Maddening happened twice. Crazy. It is, and it's also just, it's a side effect that if the phase was more visually appealing and visually bombastic and cool and had like a sick ass cutscene, I think everybody was a little let down during progression, either seeing the cutscene through a stream or seeing a cutscene like first. I didn't see it until we got there. I usually, for my kind of prog, I try and avoid final phase spoilers until we get there, which is kind of a bummer because usually the first phase is the first time I get there is kind of a throwaway because I know nothing and I'm gonna fucking kill this because I'm a tank. But you only get to experience this kind of thing for the first time once, and I kind of wanted to just like, I want to see it the first time myself, you know, not through another stream or YouTube video or something. But I think everybody was at least a little disappointed there was no cutscene transition or something like incredibly wacky or cool that happened between Phase 4 and Phase 5. His model is kind of whatever too. He's kind of fucking boring. It's a quirky. He's got the quirky little magical girl rod or whatever. But man, Celestriad is so boring. Celestriad is like, it's such a boring intermission mechanic. The water mechanic's pretty cool because it's so fast, but it's not very hard. The Exaflares are sleeper difficult until you like sim them a few times. Obviously, I fucking ate shit to them a bunch. But maddening is just like spread, and then if you get hit, go out. And then even as a tank, you just like it's just a tank swap into runaway or invuln. The big aura of Kefka Reimagined is the Final Forsaken, which is admittedly one of the coolest enraged sequences of any ultimate. But unfortunately, it's just like not. It's just damage. It's a lot of fucking damage while everybody else in your group is burning. You have to be really on top of your mitts. You can't really miss anything. It's very, very challenging. But the minutia of the mechanics in this phase are very simple. I'd put it on the level of... It's probably still A tier. Low A. It's like DKT, but like weaker. Like, because DKT has a similar thing where the mechanics aren't very like interesting or hard. They just hit really fucking hard. But the aura in this phase is so much stronger than Kefka, right? The visuals and the music and the sound effects of just like the fucking repeated Akmorns fucking slamming the fucking shit out of you. And then the auto attacks being trio autos. I mean, the Kefka Reimagined autos are trio autos too, but they're stacks, right? It's not like one tank's getting a doom stack, the other tank's getting a doom stack, and then somebody has to rotate in to take the tail hit. I think Kefka Reimagined is on the same level as DKT, but like just lesser. Which I think probably, I don't want to put it in the same tier then. I think Kefka Reimagined is gonna go... here. Yep. Celestia had the hardest mechanic of the game for some. Crazy work. Okay, let's organize the tiers. F tier is perfect. These are the two worst phases in the entire game. And I know this one's a hot take, but that's how I feel. That's honestly how I feel about Dynamis phase. This phase fucking sucks. D tier. I am happy with that. I think that order is perfect. C tier. Probably better. Yeah, longer. Monitors kind of procs anything that Titan really does. Yeah, I'm happy with that. B tier, okay. Blue screen's probably too high. Does it bother anybody else that the images don't line up properly? This fucks me off. this fucks me off. Ah! I think this is basically perfect. Okay. A tier! I really like this phase. Yep. All right. And then S tier. Dick. Yep, flip it and ship it, boys. That's it. That is the definitive ultimate phase tier list by the fucking boomer who was there for them all in their relative expansion.